Hey guys, and welcome back to Brexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, I'm not a liar, I'm just a moron, is one of the headlines about Boris Johnson's shenanigans today. It wasn't true, but it wasn't a whopper. Another headline about Boris Johnson's shenanigans today, because he's been putting out a load of bullshit about about what we've all seen. We've all seen exactly what's happened, and this man is still trying to convince us. Oh well, I didn't lie to Parliament, even though first he said there was no parties, right, and then he said that the lies have come in different stages. The lies is like an onion. In fact, the lies is like one of those babushka dolls, right? Every time you think, you know what, I've got to the last one, right? Pull it back, and there's another one in there, a smaller one. But with Boris Johnson, it's generally a bigger whopper with Boris Johnson. But we've got So, and then what he's been doing is he's been attacking, well, getting his cronies to attack the committee, the privilege committee, right? So, Harriet Harperson, that's Harriet Harman, right? Apparently, right, she has always had it in for Boris Johnson, and she's already said stuff to say that he's guilty, and it's all of her fault that Boris Johnson had parties. But this is what he's been doing. Even I think even one of the Conservatives on the committee has had to excuse themselves, right, because they've been getting so much pressure from probably the Daily Mail and the Times and from because that Nadine Dorries and Jacob Rees-Mogg, they've got their own TV shows now. On some obscure far-right station. The people are like, yeah, that's what we want to go on, right? So they've got their own obscure station. But you know what gets me about all these people who are out there defending Boris Johnson? One of them said that Boris Johnson was, they said that Boris Johnson is slowly becoming a pound shop Nigel Farage. And I thought, Nigel Farage is already a pound shop Nigel Farage, so you've got to be 50p, a 50p shop Nigel Farage. But all of these people, right, who are out there defending, they know the stories about Boris Johnson. In fact, let's start with the beginning. At the beginning, they know that Boris Johnson's headmaster wrote to his dad to say, your son don't like to follow the motherfucking rules. That's how I would have put it. He wrote to him to say this. This must have been the 60s or the 70s, probably the 70s. He wrote to him to say that. And they all know this. They all know that Boris Johnson don't like to follow the rules. It's like, you think, well, you're doing an egg and spoon race. And there's one of the dads who says, you know what, I don't care if it upsets all the children, and they start to cry. I am not going to run with an egg or a spoon. I'm going to run the race, right, normal. All the other dads can run with the egg and spoon and say, listen, mate, you cannot race you cannot run in this race, okay? You're banned. You are not welcome, okay? Don't bother attend. Or your granddad or your mum or your dad or your grandmother was in like a home over COVID, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to see my relative. So you go down there, and everybody else is outside there waving at their relatives through the window, because that's the advice they've been given. Everyone's been given that advice. But you all know, I'm going to go in. So you go in, right, and you distract the security guard and then sweep the motherfucker off his feet and make him fall down, bang his head, knock the fucker out. A nurse comes running out and you push the nurse down in her face, right, only for a doctor to come out and you to grab his stethoscope, right, and strangle the motherfucker until he's unconscious. And then you're sitting in there with your relative when the police turn up. And the police say to you, well, what the fuck are you doing? Well, I asked whether that was within the rules, and no one could tell me whether that was in the rules or not. So I just assumed that it was okay to do that. Really? Well, explain that in court. Because, you know, I just don't understand how the hell, right, you've got people out there defending Boris Johnson, right, and say this is a witch hunt. A witch hunt. Say, you know something, right? If you didn't want a witch hunt against you, then if you had just acted as a normal prime minister instead of wanting to have a rave up in 10 Downing Street. You know, remember I'll tell you, the picture I always remind people of is when the Queen was sat there, right, at her husband's funeral by herself in that black mask. And that night, all those people in Downing Street was having a party. They're having a party. While the Queen was sat down there, right, by herself. Right? And you're telling me that there's clowns out there that will be defending this man still. And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages sent me. A special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that have signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go through all the messages. I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all the messages for definite. And I was going to wait until after Boris Johnson's thing, but you know what, I thought I'd get it out of the way and then I'll do another one tomorrow. But we've got inflation's up again because obviously the price of fruit and vegetables is up, so inflation's up again. And let's go over to America quickly because Donald Trump paid a company to $600,000 to find out whether or not the election was stolen from him. And they reported back to him and said the election wasn't stolen from you, sir. And another story about Donald Trump is that Donald Trump has called for all his supporters to come out in support just in case he gets arrested. That was yesterday. I don't think he has been arrested as yet. But instead, what happened was a load of people come out to say, jail this motherfucker holding up back. So it didn't seem like there was much of his supporters out there, but there was a lot of people out there in support of him being jailed. And let's move back over to Great Britain because we've got Baroness Louise Casey who says that the police are a bunch of rubber fucking racists, misogynists and homophobes. And I have to agree with her. Right? You know what gets me? I'll tell you what gets me is this, right? Is when you hear the stories, you know, of a Muslim police officer having bacon put into his boots. Because you say, oh, well, it's very funny. But when you work out that this guy can never, ever wear those boots again, he's now got to get a new pair of boots because he can't wear those boots. So he's got to get a new pair. So you say, well, how funny is the joke when the joke's final? You know, it's like, you know, someone pitching a bucket of water over you and, oh, that's really funny. You're in your good suit and I look at that. I throw a bucket of water over you. Hilarious. Or they throw a bucket of fucking paraffin over you. Both of them are funny. But one's dangerous and final. Right? So, but you've got like, you know, a lot of these black police officers in there, right? And, you know, they are getting, now these guys, right, are getting complaints put in about them all the time on a regular basis, right? And they still, right, are, you know, out there doing stuff that, you know, when they're seeing stuff what their white colleagues are doing and not pulling them up about it. Right. I know, you know, obviously, you know, it won't make it good for them. But then you've got the women, you know, women being pressured by senior officers to have sex with them so they can move along in their career. If that's the case, yeah, those women should not have a warrant card. You should not, you know. She's a policewoman. I expect policewomen to be, right, you know, to be very forthright people and never ever put up with bullshit like that. Seriously, that's what I expect from policewomen. I expect them to have the same level, you know, of strength as a man will have. Right? Otherwise, right, it's pointless having them in the service, right? You can't, you know, they've got to be much more robust than that. They've got to be more robust than other women that you meet on the street because they're police women. And, you know, they've got to do things like crowd control. You can't tell me that a woman like that, right, you should be able to, like, convince, oh, you know what, you need to have sex with this person, right, or your career is going to be stuck. Come on, man, you've got to be stronger than that. But anyway, I'm going to speak about that in a bit more length. Because we have to speak about some Brexit quickly. Because all of these fools today, because today is a big day for Rishi Sunak, and all of the usual suspects are saying, you know what, we're going to vote against it. Starting with Boris Johnson, the man who come with the oven-bready Brexit deal and got Brexit done. And now he's voting to keep Brexit undone. because he's not voting for Rishi Sunak still, even though Rishi Sunak's trying to clean up his mess that he made. He's trying to make the best of it. But these people are all saying, oh, well, you know something, including Liz Truss. Oh, well, you know, this keeps us, that we have to have the same regulations as the EU. So we're not going. Every single person in the country right now knows. Right now, every single person in this country knows, right, that if you don't have the same regulations as the EU, go elsewhere and do business. So what the fuck are these people playing at? What are they seriously playing at? Listen, I'm telling you straight, I don't get none of this, right? Because every single person knows that you have to have the same regulations as the EU to be in that market, to do business with that market, or don't bother darken their door ever if you're not going to align with them. But these people, I don't know what the fuck they're getting out of this, but they're all got, there's 11 or 12 of them that are going to vote against it, because Rishi Sunak now is finding out what it's really like to be a bloody Asian leader of the Tories. Now he's really finding out the truth, right? Because so far, yeah, his money has got him to where he is, because all of these guys are in awe of his money. He's got so much, right? And that's one thing, right, that can always dazzle people. But now we're getting right down to the nitty and to the gritty. And let me tell you, right, they're gonna turn against him. The only way he's getting this shit through is with the help of the Labour Party. And my friends, I'm a minute and a half over, and that is disgusting. My friends, this is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.